Hi everyone, welcome to Living La Vita Loca podcast, a retro gaming past...
A retro gaming cast for some of your podding needs. My name is Rich.
I'm going to need you to start doing that from now on. My name is Faz. Oh man. What will be funny is that I will try and sell this podcast to some group of people somewhere.
And that'll be the first thing they'll listen to.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Which...
I mean, it's better than the high-pitched whining we had on some of the other episodes to start with, right?
Yeah, it is, Yeah. Well, our high-pitched whining, or the background noise.
The microphone.
Yeah. We'll try not to do any high-pitched whining. We are here to do a free-play fortnightly. We attempted to do one recently, but then we did Indiana Jones instead.
Oh yeah.
So let's try again.
Until Rich gets it right, remembers the format.
No, it doesn't have to be formatting. It's fine. We've got a patent pending on it probably somewhere.
Yeah, probably. I don't know.
Every fortnight, or not every fortnight, we both play a game, keep it secret from each other, and then bring it to the table. We then review said game, and then let our partner score it for us, and hopefully that score will sit in line with the one that we have in our heads. That's fine, isn't it?
Yeah,
cool.
Basically it, isn't it?
That first 1 minute and 30 seconds is horseshit. Okay, so let's keep this machine rolling. Shall we Rochambeau?
Yeah,
cool. Let's do it and see who goes to go first. So 1, 2, 3. Oh, scissors!
All the scissors.
1, 2, 3. Oh, paper, colours, rock.
Bam.
Cool.
Right.
Okay, Rich won that.
Excellent.
Everyone's concerned about what the result of that was.
That's the main reason that people listen, I assume.
Right, and that's in the podcast. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Cheers, bye.
Listen to people play rock, paper, scissors. Excellent.
It's the same as Alex Kidd. It's fine.
Knockout stuff. Right. Are you familiar with Cho Aniki? Excellent. Cho Aniki, my friend. Yes. Right. Apologies in advance for what's about to happen.
Isn't that something teenagers do to each other?
I mean, arguably.
30 years ago, obviously.
So this is an apologies in advance for how this pronunciation is going to go.
Oh, fucking hell. Wait, I need to write this down.
I'll give you it later. Cho Aniki, Kyuukyoku Muteki Ginga Saikyou Otoko. I think.
What?
I believe the title is roughly something along the lines of Super Big Brother, the Ultimate Man's Counterattack.
You can just WhatsApp me. Please.
So this is from the PS1 in 1995.
Did you genuinely do this to fuck me over? Like some of those?
Maybe a little bit. Right. So where do I start? I played this on my PlayStation TV and my PS3.
Okay.
So it was a PS1 classic that was available on digital stores. It is a classic.
Classic defined by Sony or...
Well, we'll get to that.
Because I've never heard of Cho Aniki. Other words.
And I'm probably butchering that title, that pronunciation as well.
You did a really good job.
Aniki. I mean, I'm owning it, right? So the series, I believe, started back on, maybe not started on the PC Engine, but that was where it kind of got a bit bigger. I think, you might get into the realms of someone on the internet going, oh, but it started on an obscure Japanese computer in the whatever decade.
Someone.
Yeah, almost certainly. So it's a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up series.
Okay, cool. Immediately more interesting than I thought it was going to be.
The vast majority of what would have started out as pixel artwork is geared around big muscle-bound blokes.
Okay.
Basically bodybuilding, if you picture that.
Got it, yeah.
Hurtling through space, shooting lasers at things.
Brilliant.
Probably other muscle-bound blokes and abominations. Trains with faces, that kind of thing.
Oh.
What's
the tank?
Yeah. If he was jacked.
Dude, his body is massive. Like, he's like,
Yeah, now imagine him with, like, massive arms pumping the wheels, and you're probably getting close.
Oh, God, my childhood.
Yeah. Imagine it with a kind of warped soundtrack that's somewhere between, what have I got here? Beautiful Katamari and Monty Python. right? And you're kind of getting close. So the PS1 edition is also even more Monty Python-esque. Thanks to my wife for pointing this comparison out, because they replaced the pixel art with digitized graphics.
Oh.
So these are actual bodybuilders that are floating through space, shooting lasers and all that kind of stuff. So opening line on my notes here, what an erotic and deranged treat. Pixels out, digitalized all caps, man sprites in. I think I was having fun.
I am.
So this was a Japanese copy.
Okay.
Perhaps unsurprisingly, you might have gathered this. I don't know. I don't know what the story is. There is a story. As best I can tell, quite the prologue. Big dude with a big horned helmet hurtling through space in various poses. Kind of beautiful Katamari-esque sort of shenanigans. You play as him to start with, hurtling through a cityscape, destroying everything in front of you. And it appears to me as though you are the bad guy for this particular sequence, destroying everything and generally being scary. If you get shot down or fail, the game ends. And you get like an alternative ending where it's like, oh, thanks to our heroes and all that. And it just boots you back to the start, which is kind of fun. I appreciate that.
That's cool.
Because it meant that I've seen an ending, which is great.
The only ending I'll ever see.
Probably.
My failure.
So once you're past that, you're into the story proper, and you can choose between one or two characters. One of them is a bloke who has two burly bodybuilding blokes floating alongside him, shooting things. I don't know if they are the titular Cho Aniki or what, but they're big. They look out for you.
Cool.
Big brothers. Yeah, that works.
That makes sense, yeah.
Or you play as a woman who has a couple of like little angelic cherubs with possibly the most irritating voices ever.
What is with shmups and having fairies or cherubs as like the weapon? Or
Don't know. But at least to start with, you can use these like option things around you to kind of protect you from bullets a little bit, which is useful, but that doesn't necessarily last. Like they can get taken out and stop shooting, which you kind of need them to do. You can pick up eggs. I think they're meant to be eggs, kind of hard to tell. Presumably protein, to boost your power and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, you get like extra sort of special beam attacks and things like that, but they're very limited use. So you only get a handful of them. And off you go.
Off you go.
Off you go to go and save the thing or stop a thing or prevent a thing.
I usually have so much to say, but
yeah.
Carry on.
So the music is like utterly nuts. Like, you know, Beautiful Katamari was like distinctive, but it all kind of hung together in like a kind of broadly cohesive, eclectic whole. Here, it's just fucking insane. Like it's like nothing else I have ever heard.
Is it like those memes where it's just like a cat going meow 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 meow?
I mean, not exactly, but you know what? Not a million miles off. Like there is nothing else quite like it. Let's put it like that. And I think the big draw for me, like the actual mechanics of the shooting are quite simplistic. The actual gameplay itself is pretty shonky, right? Like I think if you were playing this as a serious shoot 'em up player, I think you're going to be disappointed.
Oh, really?
Right? I don't think there's enough meat on the bone gameplay wise. I know of I think the Shmup Junkies YouTube channel like has talked about it quite a few times, and you know, we'll mention things like things you can exploit, or what I found was occasionally if you moved too close to certain parts of the screen, you can end up moving your options so that they're kind of out of place, and almost you end up crunching all of your firing together more than you should be able to. It seemed like nothing seemed to kind of reset to where it could be.
Just because the fact that it's down as a PlayStation Classic, but it sounds like it has some mechanical problems.
I mechanically, it's middling at best. I think is fair to say. It's not like a tight game,
Yeah.
right? You go play, I don't know, one of the old Toa Plan ones or Dononpachi, all that kind of, like other ones that we've mentioned to death various different times. They are very, in fact, Dononpachi Resurrection, good example, just call out of the corner of my eye, like mechanically tight, right? Like it plays crisp. This does not, right? This is kind of like it flaps around, you know, and it's if you
big men flapping
around, and if you get taken out, you kind of have that Gradius syndrome thing where it's like you built up your power, you get taken out once, and then you're just done. Like you're going to have that domino effect happening. You're going to have a bad time. So the big draw is just seeing how deranged the graphics get, because like maybe not first boss, but an early boss will be like a massive digitized sprite of a big grinning bloke sat astride what can only be described as a Death Star, with a giant metallic protrusion coming from it shooting at you, which disappears, and then a fleshy protrusion comes out instead with a bald man's face on it and a pair of massive biceps that try to punch you out of the air, and then the whole thing repeats and he tries to kick you. It's like someone, again, probably Shmup Junkie, describe them as abominations. and I think that's probably the best word for it.
Do you remember Eurotrash?
Yes. Yes. I can see where you're going with this. And you would be right.
I feel very much like it's too late on a Friday night. Like,
yeah, I also would have accepted Banzai on Channel 4. Like, it's in a similar sort of like, have I ingested something I shouldn't have by accident? And I'm like, am I feverish?
Yeah.
Like, what is going on? So yeah, for me, the big draw was not the gameplay. It was not the satisfaction of going for score or anything like that. Like, I don't think for a second that the scoring mechanics are deep or anything like that. You know, it's not like you're going to be able to live in this game and get better at it. The big draw was seeing what the hell you were going to come up against next. My favourite boss, for example, the Human Pyramid. That was excellent. But this is the thing, right? So you say, but it is literally just a bunch of dudes in pants making a human pyramid and shooting at you with their mouths.
Yeah, no.
And
why
like,
not? Why wouldn't that happen?
Yeah, and you just take the people out one by one, and that's it. And there's just something so daft about it. I found it really endearing.
So I think I have a serious question.
Sure.
So you're talking about how it's quite easy to lose those. When you lose the options, you then become so underpowered that you just lose pretty much straight away. So the draw of the game sounds like to me is to be able to get through as much of the game as possible to see all the kookiness and the mentalness.
Yep.
But shmups to me in general are usually quite difficult and take time to be able to master and get better at and get through. How easy is it to get through the content to see the mental? So
you're up against some possibly not particularly well put together mechanics. You're up against having a massive hitbox like on your person.
Okay.
So it's very easy to get taken out. There are a lot of like kamikaze enemies and stuff like that as well. So like you'll have bits early on where you can shoot, like you can cancel the other people's bullets and all that kind of stuff, and it's reasonably straightforward. But you hit a wall early on where it's going to be very difficult. If you're not powered up, it's going to be really difficult.
Okay.
So, yeah, you're right. Like the attraction with it would be play, replay, get better, get further, see more of it, play more of it, get better at it. That's not there for me personally. Okay. The draw was literally like, what the hell are they going to do with the artwork next? Nowadays, if you were re-releasing it, and I think they are starting to on Switch and stuff like that, certainly the earlier ones, you would probably start to put in save states, rewinds, stuff to make it easier to progress, maybe even an easy mode and stuff like that. None of that here. In terms of extras, you get it might be about a minute or two long behind-the-scenes fuzzy video of a couple of the photo shoots where they're getting the digitized sprites together. So you have a couple of very awkward-looking bodybuilders standing there in a frame.
What the fuck are we doing here?
Yeah, and I mean, credit's due. They clearly worked hard for it, but nonetheless, it's not like it's a set of extras and features that are going to help you through the game and master it.
I imagine that was those dudes' life goal, basically, to be on an absolutely mental shmup. Like, as in, imagine if that was that was your calling card now. That is in, so you were this amazing bodybuilder back in your 20s, and now the only thing remaining of that is this shmup where you have what you are the thing that
someone else's option.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, crawls out of somebody else's craft to shoot.
But also, you're getting talked about on a podcast 30 years later.
You are.
So,
Yeah, there's at least a few people listening to this going, yeah.
I hope so. Because genuinely, it's one of those games that I'm reasonably sure there might be 3 people out there that are like, finally, someone's talking about this. Everybody else will presumably have already skipped forward quite a lot.
You don't know what I've got.
Well, so for this, I find it difficult to recommend as a game, at least in the kind of original PS1 edition. If they get around to re-releasing it somehow, some way, or you're playing it on emulation, you can do some interesting stuff with it.
Yeah,
sure, give it a crack. But what I have got down is watch it on YouTube. It's worth going and just seeing for a couple of minutes. You don't need long. You will get the idea pretty quickly what's going on with it. There is just something so of its time of digitized sprites and utter insanity that I find really endearing. As a game, it's a much harder sell. Not impossible. We have played mechanically, structurally worse things, but it ain't great. So don't want to steer your scoring too much, but I know damn well where I'm putting it.
Well, that's really tough. because this is one of these double-handers where it's like you're very excited about the idea of it, but the game's not very good. And I always get them wrong when that happens. This is what I mean. You've just sent these things out to fuck me, basically now. You can't. I'm just gonna get to the point where I can't spell the title. I don't. It'll get to the point where it's so abstract. You're just like, I've brought the vacuum of space with me this week. What do you want me to do here? Because I'm thinking, you've obviously had a really good time from one angle. But from a gameplay point of view, it sounds like in the shmup world, because obviously you're quite well experienced in that. Is this one of the worst ones you've played, or is it a middling one? That makes a difference to me.
Yeah, I think it probably is one of the worst ones.
Okay.
And that's not necessarily because it's fundamentally broken or anything quite like that, but I think mechanically, scoring wise, all that kind of stuff, it's maybe about as deep as a puddle.
Okay.
If you can keep that power level up, you're not going to have to sink too much time into it to learn the patterns and get reasonably far through. It's as soon as something goes wrong, the whole thing just unravels so fast. For argument's sake, if you put an easy mode into it in a hypothetical re-release, I think it would be comically easy.
Okay.
Right? And I think if you're talking about it from a gameplay point of view, and bearing in mind that we are ostensibly a video gaming podcast, and the fact that I've sat here and said, go watch it on YouTube, don't bother playing it, I think that was the key bit for me.
That was what I was coming back to. That was literally the only thing where I was like, if we go by our own standards of sort of saying where a recommendation stands, it doesn't sound like you can recommend anybody to go and play this game. You're just saying, please go and check it out. As I am going to as soon as I get home.
Please go forth and appreciate the fact that this thing exists.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Don't worry about booting it up.
Yeah,
is basically where I'm coming down on it. I think it's a curiosity. It's a novelty. I would be surprised if you saw anything like it happen again. It might. It might. Stranger things have happened. But it kind of feels almost like, there you go. That's a good comparison. It almost feels like the kind of like Newgrounds-esque Flash game type level that you would get in like the kind of early to mid noughties. Like if you're if you're picturing the kind of shoot 'em up that I expect you possibly are about now, then you're probably in a reasonably good position to understand how this thing plays. Not necessarily how it looks, but how it plays. And I think, like, how many of those games are you going to go back to, and play seriously?
Tick Fight, which is now a game itself, really.
Well, true.
Or a 3 out of 10.
I mean, I was thinking 2 or 3. Yeah.
Okay, is that okay? Right, okay.
Yeah. Is that okay?
But it's just like, I was like, okay, good. I feel all right then.
No, this is
ballpark. That's fine.
Definitely one of those ones that I am so glad exists. But and this is the bit that I cunningly ignored in the review bit because I didn't want to show my hand too much. But I've also got one of the earlier games on the PC Engine Mini.
Oh, okay.
And I have more fun playing that than this.
Yeah.
And even then, I still don't really go back to that. Like, it just doesn't scratch the itch. Yeah. But yeah, in terms of sheer novelty, sheer audacity, I guess, cracking stuff. But yeah, not great to play.
This is why our podcast, for me, it's easy for me to say I'm on the podcast, but like, for me, this is why the podcast is good, because who's going to go and pick that out with, probably nobody, unless somebody goes, well, actually, that sounds fun for 20, 30 minutes, especially watching it, for example.
Yeah.
You've done a service. You've done a service to those muscle-bound men.
I think
they greased up for something.
I think the other thing that I kind of didn't mention, not deliberately, but like the other thing to bear in mind is that it is quite, like, when you're watching it back, it's quite long for a shoot 'em up. Like, I think it's somewhere around an hour or something like that. Yeah. And like, I get the impression that if you are actually trying to play it anything approaching seriously, it could really start to drag. I was not getting to that kind of stage at all. Like, and even then I was like, you know what? I'm glad that I have tried this. I'm glad that I've invested some time, but thank you, bye.
Oh, how do I get over here to this? What kind of leap do I make? A game that is aesthetically pleasing, but does have some gameplay issues. Would be that's as far as I think.
Yeah, that's not unreasonable.
Yeah, there we go. But so fucking different. So this was meant to come out with Indiana Jones, and I did give a little bit of a sort of, it's a 30s based thing with hats. Mafia Definitive Edition.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
I was going to do this one week as well.
Oh, wait.
Let me get my notes.
Oh, no. I've busted it. Oh, that's the first time I've ever done that.
I've got it in my notes.
Brilliant.
I've got Mafia 2 as well.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, do you want to keep that, or do you want to do that as well after we've done this one?
I mean, I can just however you want to play it.
Well, this is awesome.
You start talking.
Okay, cool. Perfect. Okay, cool. So I'd never played it before, and I really wanted to play it, kind of, and the reason I'd put it in with the Indiana Jones slot was because obviously Mafia the Old Country was coming out, and I was like, we'll link those together, but that got nuked by some people. But it's here now. So I started playing at the start of July because it was leaving Game Pass on the 15th of July, and I was like, right, okay. And I knew it was about 10 hours long, so I was like, right, now I'll get that under my belt. It's fine. The race is on. The
race that was considerably easier than the first time round.
So. I'll give a bit of the detail then, and then see. Yeah, we'll do a bit of tit-tat then. So 2002, the very first time it was developed then by Illusion Softworks, which they were acquired by 2K in 2008, and that became Czech 2K. They then merged under 2K with Hangar 13 for the remake in 2020. So that the trilogy, the original trilogy, Mafia 2, Mafia 3, was brought to a close in 2016. And then they must have thought, well, it was pretty good, so let's just bring it out again. And we really need to update Mafia, from 2002. This was like one of the last big releases. It was like brought out like a month before the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series, they all came out. So it was almost like, to see something of this ilk. And it's interesting that that decision was made. And I can't help but cast my mind back to Driver 2, which was kind of came out like the week before PlayStation 2 sort of thing, where it's like, we're doing this remaster, and it's like, obviously they would have been working on it for a year beforehand, but I feel like they could have said, could we not have hopped it to the next generation if we really want to make it like
tight a little bit?
Yeah. We want to make it sing. So I'm just going to dip straight into the plot, if you will, or the framework of what the game's all about then. So anybody that hasn't played it, Tommy Angelo, he's a cab driver who basically breaks bad. and it becomes a bit of a mafia heavy in Lost Heaven, which effectively is just Chicago during the 1930s, hence the 30s and the hats. It's the story's framed from a retrospective conversation with the absolute most rote Irish cop ever made, like just like it
really is.
Yeah, the Irish American cop, just like that hot, like, I would say that Tommy, in both parts of the story, that is and not trying to get too spoilerish, but in both parts of the story, he breaks bad very easily, and he also turns on his mafia family very easily. Like, as in, so what my feelings about him were almost like, I understand that his livelihood had kind of like been smashed up by some mobsters effectively at the start of the game, but immediately he's just like, well, I better be a fucking mafioso then. Like, it's the only way out. It's the only way I've got. Like, and they do put some bedding behind that to make you think, oh, that does feel like the only way out. But I was still a bit like, he goes from really quite weak-willed to becoming this mafia heavy, like, so quick. Or it feels that way in terms of how the game's put together. And then towards the end of the game, and you obviously, it's not much of a spoiler because they tell you at the start, I'm turning, effectively on the mafia, like, as in, and being an informant to the police straight away. And again, spending so much time being part of the Salieri mafia family, and he becomes the integral cog that everything seems to depend on because you are the player who's playing him.
Go and do these things.
Yeah, and then he just becomes this fucking turncoat, like, honestly, like seconds. And I'm just like, what? Tommy, make your fucking mind up, mate. That's just like, So, yeah, that's a bit odd. A lot of the meat and the bone for me was like the narrative. It feels like they were really aiming for Scorsese, and they kind of came up with, I'm trying to think of something that isn't Scorsese, though, a mafia sort of thing. American Gangster, maybe, sort of movie, like along those ilks, maybe Lucky Number 11. I don't know, that kind of movie. It's just sort of like, slots in where you're like, it's still a great movie. I'm really enjoying myself, but it ain't Scorsese.
But is it a classic?
Yeah, it's really impressive stuff. It's just I'd say a really, really good imitator. They do something that I would say sometimes lacks in video games, where they do a really good job of knotting together the gameplay and the story missions with the actual story itself. Like, you fully feel like you're playing a narrative at all times in this game. Whether the gameplay is good in between that, I will come back to. I think it's questionable, but in terms of being fully immersed in that sort of sim-esque way, but it all just being about the story, you're not going to play bowling with your cousin or some shit or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, as in,
like that tallies with a note that I've got here about like the sort of cinematic pacing feels better than, I dare say, like a kind of Grand Theft Auto or something like that.
Yeah.
Where like in this, I felt that when someone says that you've got to get a bit of a rush on for something, you're like, oh yeah, maybe I should.
Yeah.
Rather than like, oh yeah, I'm just going to go over here instead and go bowling or whatever.
I mean, the opening flyover sequence is that's as close as I think I felt to seeing a cinematic sort of experience in a video game, where they kind of do the flying over the city, and you just immediately get the idea, and that's where you kind of get that sort of the Scorsese sort of thing, the Once Upon a Time in America, that is in like all that kind of stuff, where you kind of just feel like I've been physically dropped into the neighborhood, like, and I get an idea of what's going on here. That is in just from a brilliant way of framing the opening scene, really. So to do all that and continue to do that during the game is, fully commendable.
Yeah.
Do you want to start speaking for a while?
This
is so unprecedented.
So let's go down a bit of a gameplay rabbit hole then. Like, for me, it was it's pretty solid, right? There's a lot of shooting, obviously, but like I think it kind of gets to the stage where it's almost to its detriment a little bit. I would have liked a little bit more variety. Like you're either driving or you're shooting. That's kind of it, really. You've got a bit of stealth in there, but I think I can count on one hand the number of times it was used, and I think I would use even fewer fingers for used successful.
Yeah, stealth just doesn't work very well. Was what I've got written down.
It definitely isn't the strong suit of the game, but the kind of gameplay mechanics and the systems are all flexible enough that you can kind of get around it. I quite like the world building, like you say, within the missions. The comparison I've got in my notes is LA Noire. For that kind of like
similar,
it's not necessarily open world. I think if you were going to play it as an open world game, expecting a Grand Theft Auto but Mafia themed, you'd be disappointed.
Yeah.
But I think if you go in playing it as a narrative experience and basically ignore the open world, you're going to have a much better time.
Yeah.
And I was getting pretty liberal use out of the trip skip option. Just because it was like, well, this is a big, vast, empty open world, and I'm literally just driving
the shitty old. That is in it.
Yeah.
So it was so sim-like. They give you the shitty old 30s car that
speed limiters.
Yeah, speed limit and terrible gears and things, which is great because that's just so realistic. But like you say, and I loved that there was early on. I really bought into listening to all the conversations that the gangsters are all having with each other, because that then builds out the world whilst you're doing something. You're not just watching a cutscene while you're doing that. That's great. But then later on, I am just going, skip. And the fact that it was like pretty much every part of the mission, it was like you should just skip straight into like it's in, a major chunk of it.
And I think it's quite telling that, like, as a re-release, they've gone, okay, sure, we'll give you the options. Like, if you want to do the free roam stuff and basically be bored witless, sure, yeah, whatever. We're not going to stop you. However, we know what people like, and we know that you want to get there quickly. So, we're basically going to give you a way to get past all this stuff we made for you.
Also noticed that the difficulty of the game was quite highly customizable in the remake. So, that there was lots of different variants you could pick. And it was really interesting to see that classic mode was like the hardest mode. Yeah, it's like, right, okay. Yeah. So basically what you're telling us there, don't go play the 2002 version because you'll get fucked.
Man. So, like, because I did play that.
I was going to ask, did you?
Yeah, like many moons ago now.
On PC or?
On PC, yep. And holy hell. Like, the stories of that racetrack being as difficult as it was, completely true. And like, I managed to get through it. But yeah, that was a difficult game. Like, that is a character building level of difficulty in that game, sort of pre-Dark Souls kind of stuff. And yeah, so it was quite nice to see it this time around that they were just like, you know what? Yeah, if you want to feel like a badass, sure. You can go do that.
I mean, I flipped my car this time round in that race. Like, did a barrel roll in that car, and I was like, how is Tommy not come out of this? Like, so yeah, it was definitely easier that it let you do that, certainly, and still managed to win first time round. So, and that's what. So, I just referenced before that I was saying that this game that I was doing, the IGN podcast did a review of Mafia Old Country this week, and they were just talking about how, and it's really funny because that game, they didn't mention it, but that game, what they were saying about that game, and playing this so recently for myself, how much it sounds like the exact same game, pretty much, like world building and the way it goes and stuff. It's interesting to see that. So I'll be really happy to hear what you say about Mafia 2 and what that is like, because for me, it feels like has the series moved on at all? That is in, and is that why you're only paying £45 for it? Because actually, they're just kind of going, we're just trotting out the same thing again, like just in a different setting. Sorry, that was just a bit of an aside, but you got any more? I know you will.
I mean, to be honest with you, I think we've covered the main bits of it, which I guess is kind of faintly damning. Like, I don't think it is a particularly complicated beast, really. Like, it's just really, really solid. If you take it as a good narrative, third person action adventure type thing that you could probably knock out in a week, if not a weekend, bang on the money. Like, it's well written, well acted. Yeah, it's just a solid little story. If you treat it like you're watching a, I don't know, miniseries on telly or something like that, well away.
Yeah.
But I think if you go in expecting a Grand Theft Auto or something like that, then you're going to be on a hiding to nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I was high on the story, the graphics, the soundtrack, the voice acting, the immersion in the world. It's such a professional development of a mafia story. It really is. Like, even if it's a little bit rote in some parts. What I was struggling with a little bit here, and when I say struggling, not to the point where I'm like, oh, this is a bad game, like, but things that definitely keep it from being, and I've got a game to compare it to, actually. I've reviewed the show already, but what I was struggling with to keep it from being sort of a classic is certainly the gameplay. The controls feel a bit cumbersome, like the weapon wheel. The weapon wheel was just, it didn't, and like the sprinting and the vaulting, you don't do a lot of it, but it almost just like, even though this is a remake, that is, and I don't know how much of the original engine they used, but it felt like I was playing a 2002 video game in some of the ways that the gameplay was working when I was
kind of stiff.
Yeah, and like, I remember there's a shootout in a barn where there's police kind of coming up the stairs towards you, and they just seem to be bumping off all the banisters, and you're kind of like just kind of hanging off the banister trying to shoot them with a shotgun, and you're just all over the parish, and I was like, who's the professional out of anyone in this room here right now? Because everyone's doing a fucking shit job. Do you know what I mean? Like, as in, how did anyone ever get killed? Like, it just, it just felt a bit like every time that I thought that I was super thinking, this is an amazing game because of the narrative and how well put together it is and how much I'm enjoying being immersed in the world, I kind of find myself being pulled back every so often by the bit of the gameplay that was just like, oh, like, I'd say driving feels like the best part of the gameplay.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And you can skip all pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. A perfect example was, there was a mission, it's called, and this is with the mission length and difficulty as well. There's like, some of them are dead short and some of them are really long. And it was like, so there's a mission called Saint and Sinner, which is really flabby. You kind of start off in a brothel hotel and you work your way through that, and you're in a bit of like, a shootout, and it's quite an intense shootout, and you've got to do lots of cover shooting and things. And as I've sort of stated, it can be a little bit clunky, so that's a difficult part. And then you've got a rooftop chase where you're kind of shooting at police straight after that. And then you go straight into a shootout in a church. Yeah. Then you go straight into escaping in a hearse. That isn't it? Just, and that's like one mission. And then I think the previous mission to that is like, walk your love of your life home. I'm just like, it just seemed a bit like, oh, okay,
well, that escalated.
Yeah, just like I think there could have been better checkpointing during those massive lumpy missions. Like, as in all.
I get that. Yeah.
Not horrendous. There's just things that are kind of like, I remember when I was playing that, and see, because there's been so much Mafia Old Country chat, a lot of people have been like, "Oh, the trilogy is absolutely incredible," and I'm like, "Is it? Yeah. Is the first game a classic? Not for me." And then the game I was going to compare it to, that I felt, there's two games actually. One that I've not played this year, but one that kind of came to mind for some reason, and the one I have played this year. The one that came to mind that I haven't played for a long time, but was almost like Driver 3.
Okay, yeah.
Which was a 2002-ish game on the PlayStation 2 that felt like the same sort of thing, where all the best mechanics are in the driving. It was just like, had that weird clunky gameplay where you couldn't quite get into your car while you're shooting and stuff and things, but had that sort of like vast story. But then actually Driver 3 is maligned, whereas this is quite well loved. And I wonder if you remastered Driver 3, would it be something that would be like, oh, this is amazing.
We get it now.
Yeah. And the game I played this year that helps me kind of sit where the score is in my head was Sleeping Dogs.
Okay, yeah.
Because Sleeping Dogs was almost like, that was brilliant fun and amazing gameplay, like in terms of fluid, amazing sort of like, and just a rollicking good time. But the story was a bit weaker in that one, like compared to this game. And I gave that an 8 out of 10 back in February.
Oh, did you? So I was just looking for it on the spreadsheet now. Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah.
So yeah, I felt like it was almost a bit of a vice versa flip on this, really, where I thought that the gameplay in that was significantly better than this. But the thing is, that was out. That came out in 2012. That is in, so 10 years later than this, and it's just never had a remake or anything. But it doesn't feel like it necessarily needs one, even if people are asking for. So yeah, there's some bits in it that I was like, it felt really compelling from a narrative point of view and how well they made it, but on the parts of an actual practicality of the game, that felt a bit thin and not well thought out. And considering it's a remake, I would have thought that you'd think about that a bit more.
A little bit more in the way of quality of life type stuff.
And, not that there wasn't there. I think it could have gone even further than that.
Yeah, that's the thing, because especially having played the original one on PC and then going and playing this version of it, it does feel improved and different and for the better and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, no, I think you are right. It does feel like you could have gone a little bit further with this, though, guys, couldn't you?
Yeah.
How are we scoring this?
Are we just going to say it at the same time and see what happens?
Yeah, all right.
And then we'll just fight over it.
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
Right. Okay. 3, 2, 1, 7.
There we go.
Easy.
Motion carried.
There we go. Done. We knew what we were thinking about, didn't we? Even if it was like a bit of a shock. That definitely feels like where it should be. Sevens we've talked about before being, they're very good games, but yeah, it was just a little bit lesser than Sleeping Dogs for me, which is funny because
I think that's fair.
Things like when I said the gameplay was like Sleeping Dogs, and they just had people like fucking firing out of boats like randomly and stuff, but it looked fun. It was good. So
do you want me to do Mafia 2 while we're at it then?
Yeah, I think we've got time for that.
It can be reasonably quick.
Yeah.
I would like to do Mafia 3 at some point. Full disclosure, I started playing it with a view to trying to do all three in really quick succession. But then, if I remember rightly, looking at my notes, Doom the Dark Ages came out soon afterwards. And spoiler alert, I'll be talking about that at some point.
Well, maybe it could be, only if you're interested in doing it, but it could be a 3 in an old country job at some point. Or whatever, do you know what I mean? So, yeah, go for 2.
Right, so 2. This was 2020 jobby. Originally came out in 2011, so much closer to Sleeping Dogs territory. I think it's probably fair to say that the graphical leap is not so high from the original Mafia to definitive. This one's a bit closer. Still looks good. Like it still clearly had a bit of spit and polish.
I feel like I'm having a treat right now with an extra review.
A bonus review. It's because I screwed you over with Cho Aniki earlier.
Joey, what now?
So, control wise, you've still got a bit of fiddliness there with, weapon switching and sprinting is what I've got in here, funnily enough. But I would argue that story-wise, world-building-wise, setting, all the bits that we've just praised Mafia 1 for, personally, I think Mafia 2 is better.
Ah, okay.
On all fronts. I think...
Is it 50s, is it set? Or
so it's got a bit of a time jump. So you start... And in fact, let's talk about this a bit, because that bit that you said about in Mafia 1 where it feels like the kind of the pacing of the narrative and the character development does not necessarily tally with the speed at which it's presented. It feels a lot more cohesive in this one. So I think they've taken a lot of the lessons learned and applied them, and it's much more character motivations are clearer, such as they will ever be in a film, film like this, in a game like this. And how people end up taking certain courses of action, you can see where it's come from a lot easier, and all that kind of stuff. So you start. I think the tutorial mission, if I remember rightly, is in Italy in World War II, and your character goes back home, and that is how you start to meet up with some old friends, and they have started to make inroads, and you kind of join them in joining the Mafia and all that kind of stuff. The story progresses a little bit, and then you end up in jumping forward to some point in the 50s, and it's entertaining to see that jump happen and that development, and suddenly you're going from those terrible 1930s and 40s cars to hot rods and stuff like that, and rock and roll. And there's a little montage sequence when this jump happens, and the game is enjoying it.
Yeah.
You can tell the developers are enjoying it. There is just something so gleeful about showing this off that it's kind of infectious. So the acting is still on point. Holy hell, is it racist? A couple of times. And I mean, like, sure, it's of the year and all that kind of stuff, but fuck me.
Oh, really?
Like,
it's interesting, isn't it? Because you kind of go, is it in keeping or is it Tarantino? It's kind of...
it feels like whatever. This is kind of treading reasonably close to a line, like where it's
okay.
If you were going to,
you've made your point now.
like if it wasn't a remake and you were completely doing the game from scratch, I can't help but feel like there would be certain scenes that would be written differently to prove the same point, but just in a slightly different way. I don't think it's quite like, oh, it's so heavy-handed or whatever. It's racism. Obviously, it's heavy-handed. But it's that kind of thing where you just can't help but think that were you going to write it in 2025, it would come out different. You've got crunchy combat still, so tick there. You've got a bit more in the way of options for like where they put in DLC and stuff like that, and like kind of post-game stuff to do. You've got some extra missions and a little bit of extra story. It links up nicely with the narrative of Mafia 1 as a whole. You don't get a trip skip, as best as I could tell.
Okay.
But the sort of mission bits where you're driving have a little bit more in the way of talking and stuff like that to kind of bring you through that journey. Things aren't quite as spread out. It just feels like they've kind of finessed the open world a little bit to make it all right. And there is actually stuff to do in that open world.
I was going to ask about that because thinking about Mafia, that one thing I'd say that I did quite like about it, even though it sounds counterintuitive to the point you're about to make, but it felt like a linear story, and the open world bit was almost like a tag on almost. In a way,
an afterthought.
Yeah, so I didn't mind that so much because it felt like I was really kind of focused on the story then, and didn't have to go and do any of the sidey questy bits or whatever and stuff, like go to a garage and tune up my car or whatever.
So this didn't really like have anything where I kind of felt like I had to do sidey questy stuff. It was just there if I wanted to. It doesn't outstay its welcome or anything like that. It's just there is more stuff to do if you feel that way inclined, but it's not going to shove it in your face. However, I do have a little note here saying that there were plenty of times where I held up the action by hunting for musty porn. Because they've got like old Playboy articles as collectibles and stuff like that. And like you do have these ridiculous moments of like, oh wait, no, I'm meant to be progressing this shootout,
and I'm collecting,
and I'm looking for like I'm hunting around these corners in case I can stumble upon a Playboy article. This warehouse is burning down around my ears, and I am looking for like 1940s Playboy articles. What is wrong with me? What have I become? Hi mum, hi dad, if you're still listening.
Those UK laws are really hit hard.
So yeah, it was just one of those moments where it's like, okay, so I kind of appreciate the extra sort of side content stuff, but at the same time, it does feel like you're kind of accidentally creating a bit of narrative dissonance here.
Yeah.
Which I can't help but feel responsible for, if I'm being honest. But, it's one of those things. The point is that, like, as a kind of cohesive whole game, it does feel like it hangs together a bit better than Mafia 1. There's a bit more to it. It just feels that little bit more accomplished. I really enjoyed it. I think the narrative is more effective than Mafia 1. I prefer the characters. So yeah, like generally pretty positive. And it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't outstay its welcome. It also doesn't do what Mafia 3 seemed to want to do from what I played of it, where it kind of goes down the Ubisoft route of just giving you a map with a shit ton of icons across it, and just kind of goes, well, go and have fun with that. Like this feels like the sweet spot between those two extremes of Mafia 1 and Mafia 3, where you've got that kind of basically non-existent open world and focused narrative that just happens to be in an open world space, or that icon-based you've got this map. Go see what these things say. Vagueness.
Yeah.
This told a good story in a world that could be explored. There's plenty of things to interact with. You know, you can open doors, flush toilets, all that kind of good stuff.
Need to after getting those musty hands.
Don't know. It's all utterly inconsequential. But the point is that it feels like it's a more considered space for the story that it's telling than Mafia 1, without being as sort of wishy-washy and vague as Mafia 3
That's really
seems
cool.
to be.
Like, it's nice to hear that because, you know, sometimes I think with when you get a trilogy and stuff, like as in you can get a sag in the middle, or you can get that bump, like, you know, that I'm aware of, like Uncharted, for example, and stuff like that. But it sounds like
Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, it sounds like it's doing the progression in the right way, that it's taken everything that was good from the first game and kept it, but then developed it, and almost just a natural way of doing it. Like, it sounds like it. Anyway,
I think that's fair. I think it's a good progression from Mafia 1, and I could see why Mafia 3 could have been a disappointment for some people, especially considering that the potential for, you know, where it's set, when it's set, and the stories it could have told, had it felt sort of structurally more like Mafia 2. Yeah, I could see why Mafia 3 would be a disappointment. Certainly from the bit that I was playing, without wishing to get too far ahead of myself, it wasn't really doing it for me. So yeah, like, I guess the only other point is, good soundtrack, which I kind of touched on, but it did prompt me into re-downloading a shit ton of like old rockabilly and 50s rock and roll stuff. That's
cool, because again, that almost feels like the development of these types of games. Like I say, these types, I'm lumping it in with Grand Theft Auto, for example, but you kind of get the you get the radio, don't you, in the car and things that you know, and it's
an important part of the world.
And I didn't necessarily get that from Mafia 1 because I kept on skipping all the driving parts, but you know, it's good that that's there, you know, and it kind of inspired you to go and, you know, look into it more and stuff. So I'll go back to it. So obviously it's higher than a 7. Fucking hell, play your cards right. But how much higher? Forgive me for saying that whilst you said it was really good, it didn't feel like you jumped on that much more where you were like effusive to 9s and 10s. So an 8?
Yeah, 8 was basically what I was thinking. Like, it's really, really good. It's really good. Is it, you know, dippity top, stratospheric, like, holy hell, like, I probably not, but you could do a lot worse. Really, really good.
Oh, cool. Oh, I loved how weird and impromptu that became. That was nice.
How weird that became. It did become weird.
No, it started weird.
Weirdly overly sexualised episode. Hi, Mum. Hi, Dad. If you're still listening.
All the wrong ways. That is it. Like, all the way, or not wrong ways, just ways you wouldn't expect.
I've bookended an entire episode with erotica and no one noticed. Happy 52nd minute.
Wait a minute. Okay, cool. Right, I'm going to leave now. Bye.
Bye.